Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new edition of KerVAM, a Doctor Who podcast where of course at the moment we're reviewing every single new episode of Doctor Who. We're in the midst of a new season. We're approaching the finale really quite quickly, more quickly than I would have liked, but that's the nature of 8-episode series. Of course today we're going to be taking a look back at the 6th episode of the series, Rogue, which is certainly I think one worth discussing, particularly, lots of things to discuss in this episode, so we'll cover all those off, and of course we're going to share all our theories on the finale two-parter to come when everything goes a bit Susan twist and who knows what else. But Charlie, we'll come to you first. Rogue as an episode, was before the series, was it one you particularly were excited for, you took much notice of, or was it kind of like it's just a mid-series episode that we'll watch at some point?
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of like it was definitely the one I was least interested in before, because I knew that it was the one that was, I mean, it had the sort of code name Regency for like a year. And we'd seen the set photos and it was kind of just, yeah, this is a historical Doctor Who episode and that's it. There's nothing, it's not the Stephen Moffat one. It's not 73 Yards, which we know nothing about. It's not the Weird Slug episode. It's not the musical one. It's just there. It's a historical. I think it was really good. Like, I don't know. I had loads of fun watching this. I think it was very much, I wasn't really expecting to love this one as much as I did.
Interesting. Okay.
It was not a perfect episode, and I'd say it wasn't as good as episode 3, 4, or 5, but better than the first two, I'd say.
Interesting. Okay.
As we're sort of approaching the end of the season, I'm starting to like rank all the episodes, and I think if you take the average quality of an episode, this is a really good season. I think the issues with the season itself are more under the surface, and it's kind of running through the whole thing, to do with the order of the episodes and the fact that we still don't have any Doctor and Ruby in the TARDIS scenes. We still didn't have any in Rogue.
Yeah. They were hardly together in the episode at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there was a great, the TARDIS scene we did have with, the Doctor and Rogue was great, but that it doesn't look like we're getting one with the Doctor and Ruby next episode either. And the finale is just going to lead on from that. So are we going to have 2 episodes in a season where the Doctor and the companion are in the TARDIS together? Like, that's so weird.
I know, it's absolutely bizarre. I mean, well, if you look at the mysterious synopsis for Tales of the TARDIS, apparently we're going to spend an hour and 15 minutes just sat in the TARDIS with the Doctor and Ruby talking about space babies. So, yeah, that sounds like a great clip show. So maybe you'll get what you want in that. But yes, it's certainly been something, a bit lacking. I think that's fair to say. But yeah, that's really interesting to hear. So Ryan, where do you sit on this story? Does it hit sort of the heights of the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks, or do you think it's a slightly lesser story?
I think it's a solid episode. It's definitely a solid, fun episode. I mean, I think we all wanted just a fun Rob Doctor story that wasn't, bold and experimental, boom, 73 Yards, Dot and Bubble, and to some extent the Devil's Sword as well. And this does fit that mod. I think this is a solid 8 out of 10 episode. I think I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed the Devil's Cord, in that they're both 8 out of 10 stories. I think it's because I think I enjoyed Devil's Cord slightly more, but I think it's because of the fact that I like the villain Maestro more than I do the bird monsters, the children. I think Maestro is easily a more iconic villain than the children were ever going to be. And I think it's just because of that the Devil's Cord is slightly above Rogue for me. But I would give them both the same mark. I think it's definitely a solid episode. I kind of knew it was going to be a romance episode. I had a feeling that Rogue was going to be a new romantic interest for the Doctor, akin to River Song, and I was right. That definitely happened, and I think they did a good, solid job with it. There are certain parts of it that did feel a little bit rushed to me, but then again, I don't know if that's really the story's fault. I think that's just been the case of all these stories. But to a certain extent, it's kind of rushed. We still need that 50 to 60 minute runtime again. We definitely really need that. But I definitely do think is definitely a solid story. I would say it's above Churchill Ruby Road and definitely way above Space Babies.
Yeah, definitely.
Those two. It's on a par, roughly on a par with Devil's Cord, but I still think Boom, 73 Yards, and Dot and Bubble were the best ones. And actually thinking back, I now think 73 Yards is the best of this season, and I'm giving my final score. And I didn't give a definitive score last time for that story. I'm now settled on a 9 out of 10 for it.
Wow. Okay. Excellent. I like it. I like reconsidering things through the weeks. It's really, really good. So Bill, obviously, kind of Ryan touched on this a little bit. That kind of one of the main aspect of this story. Really, obviously, there's a bit of a romp in there. It's all kind of Bridgerton vibes, but the key thing was the Doctor and Rogue's romance that we see in this story. That was quite a significant part of it. So for me, watching this, I felt like that storyline was a bit rushed, and we went from them meeting to them kind of getting engaged but not within the space of half an hour, and then him sacrificing himself and all of this. Like, I get it's a one episode character, so you kind of have to do that, but do you think that kind of that storyline worked? Did it feel earned within this episode, or did it feel a bit rushed?
I think it worked in terms of like overall, because I think it mostly kind of felt like semi kind of earned. I think, but I do see what you mean in terms of it feeling rushed. I think that is literally just the 45-minute runtime, and I think that if they'd have had more time of this episode or whatever, then I think maybe it would feel a bit more, like it was kind of earned that moment of like potential engagement and stuff like that. But I still think, despite that, I think it still did a pretty good job of the romance, even if, as you say, it's a little bit rushed. It still kind of makes sense in a way for the Doctor and Rogue to kind of hit it off, because obviously, as the episode kind of touches upon, they're kind of similar sort of souls, and they're kind of got similar experiences, similar stuff that they can relate to with each other. And yeah, it's just it was kind of the typical like love at first sight thing, which maybe with like another 5-10 minutes could have been developed a little bit more, but I think it still mostly did all right with it for the most part.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it. I think it's one of those things that's just really hard in 44 minutes to really tell that whole story, because it's it's quite a significant thing, and it's not something that we see every week for the Doctor. Like, obviously, as you say, we've had River Song, we've had Madame de Pompadour or whatever, we've had Rose arguably, and various different situations like that. But often, if it's a companion, they've obviously been developed over a much longer period of time, any of those feelings, and probably are also less explicit than what we saw in this story as well. So, I don't know, Charlie, what was your take on the sort of romance aspect of this story? Do you think it worked?
Yeah, basically, that's the short answer. I liked it. I think it's one of those episodes, it reminded me of Robot of Sherwood in a weird way.
Okay.
Where it's kind of, it's a pretty mid story, right? When you take away something that really elevates it, and that's the the chemistry between the two main characters of the episode. In Robert of Sherwood's case is obviously Robin Hood and the 12th Doctor. They're incredible. Same with I mean, in a very different way, we've got 15 and Rogue here. They're just their chemistry is just so good. It just completely elevates the episode, and if you didn't have that aspect of it, it would be so boring. I would fall asleep to this episode at 12:30 in the morning watching this. But no, it was like I knew there'd be a romance element in the episode before. I think we all sort of guessed. We'd all seen the scene they released beforehand, and we were like, yeah.
It's going that way.
I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I think I don't know. I've never really thought of the Doctor as like a romantic character the way he is in this episode. Like, River exists, but I don't know. Their dynamic here was very much like a lot more like flirty almost than the Doctor and River. It's very much Doctor and River felt almost one-sided to me. Like
Yeah.
the Doctor is River's husband, but River isn't the Doctor's wife. I don't know. I've been rewatching some Matt Smith lately, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this isn't actually as good as I remember. The dynamics are a bit flawed. I don't know.
Interesting.
It could be intentional. I'm not sure. But the Doctor and Rogue in this, yeah. Bottom line, I really enjoyed it. I thought both actors were great, and I think we can all agree Rogue is returning.
Yeah.
Surely. It's got to be.
Find me, yeah.
I was about to say, funny enough, you mentioned about River Song there. I think it was last week I was rewatching The Husbands of River Song, and I think you can clearly tell Capaldi's Doctor definitely. I think he would definitely, because as River's his wife, I think that was definitely a story about they both love each other, yet they weren't really sure if the other loved them back. And at the end, they affirmed their love for each other, and you can tell Capaldi's Doctor was really ready to settle down with River, and he does. They spend 24 years together, and yeah, I thought that really worked for the Doctor. Anyway, Clara was also kind of a quasi-romantic sort of with Capaldi's Doctor, because
there's a whole long debate to be had on the internet that has been had for the last 9 years.
And then there was Madame de Pompadour. And funny enough, the Aztecs, we were talking about them.
Yes, true.
One of their best stories, the Aztecs, Arnold's Doctor fell in love with a woman in that story. There was romance in that. And I think
it's been happening since 1964. Stop complaining, all the old fans.
So yeah, I'm not against the whole Doctor having some sort of a romance. I'm not as interested in it if it's done in a more overdramatic soap opera way, like Rose, for example. I never really got on board with the 10th Doctor and Rose romance. Yeah. But I feel like, yes, with enough time, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have felt rushed. But again, you can chalk that up to the strange formatting of this season. But I thought it definitely worked really well. I thought Ncuti Gatwa and Jonathan Groff definitely have some good chemistry, and apparently they're both big fans of Beyonce, and Jonathan Groff took Ncuti Gatwa to a Beyonce concert, apparently. So,
very true, yeah, it's true. It's true.
Definitely, you could definitely tell they got along very well during making of this story.
For sure.
And yeah, I think it's 100% guaranteed that he's going to come back. I hope he's a recurring character in the sense that River Song was during Moffat's era. I'm hoping that's the case here, and hopefully that means we get more seasons with Ncuti Gatwa. I would really, again, I hope he does more than 3 seasons. I really hope he does more than 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, have you guys seen the interview with Russell that says he's working on the 4th script of season 3 now, but it's not been greenlit
yet? Just what I was going to mention. Yeah. So he's expecting, as long as Disney commission it, which I'd be amazed if they don't, that they'll start filming it in January next year, so that then it's ready well in advance, and hopefully they'll again commission 2 in a row, and hopefully Ncuti will commit to 2 in a row. They can do 3 and 4 straight off the bat like they did with 1 and 2, and then Ncuti will break the 3-season rule.
Yeah, because I definitely feel like because of how short these seasons are, that justifies the fact that we need more seasons with Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, so we can have more screen time with him, build more of that connection with him and Ruby, develop that relationship more, because whenever they're together, they're brilliant. And even the short scenes they were in together in Rogue, they're brilliant. I think the problem is we just haven't had much of that, especially with the case of both 73 yards, and so we definitely need more of that connection, and we need more, again, time with Ncuti and Jonathan Groff. I think that's why we need some more seasons to build out those relationships more, and hopefully that will make his era as a whole much more satisfying.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a slightly controversial point I'd like to put to you, Bill. It struck me in this episode that, it struck me throughout the series, and I felt it was very clear in this episode, that is the 15th Doctor just not very good at saving the day? Because if you look at this series, when has the Doctor actually saved the day? Because he didn't really save the day here. He kind of, yes, he managed to trap the children, but then he kind of screwed it up because he realised Ruby wasn't actually dodgy, and then he couldn't save her, and so Rogue had to run in and do it and save the day. Didn't save the day in Dot and Bubble. Didn't save the day in 73 yards. Kind of saved the day in Boom, I suppose, from his standing spot. I kind of give him that one. In Devil's Cord, didn't save the day. The Beatles had to come along and do the right notes for him. Space Babies, it was kind of Ruby who figured things out, but I guess the Doctor kind of saved the bogey monster, and that was kind of it. And then Church on Ruby Road, he catches the baby and goes back and saves. I guess he does save the day in that one, but there's quite a few episodes of this series where it feels like the Doctor hasn't really solved the plot, saved the day, coming at the last minute.
Well, with the help of the 14th Doctor, he did help defeat the Toymaker, so you can count that as a kind of half victory.
I guess, yeah. I mean, he played a game of catch. Quality writing, Russell. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, Bill. What's your perspective on sort of the Doctor's ability to save the day as Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor?
To be honest, I've not thought about it until you pointed it out just now, and now I'm thinking, oh God, yeah, that's a really good point. Because
I know, right?
Yeah, it's
weird,
just,
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird because even Jodie still had moments where, she was saving the day and stuff, like properly saving the day. So it's very strange. I mean, maybe I don't know. Do you think that's kind of accidental, or do you think that's kind of intentional to make it a bit different to past eras, perhaps?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe it's down to having more experimental episodes, I suppose, in this series, like an episode with 2 episodes that basically didn't have the Doctor in it. Probably doesn't help with that. But I think still, when that's a large proportion of your series, and there's other episodes where it doesn't feel like he's kind of critical to the solving the plot, where I feel like, the Doctor's always the smartest person in the room who walks in, figures it all out and saves the day. And I just don't feel like we've seen a huge amount of that in this series.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I think it's more of a Russell problem, to be honest. I watched the Star Beast the other day, and I don't think Russell is good at conclusions. He's amazing at writing these characters into bad situations, but getting them out of them, like Last of the Time Lords.
Let's reverse the universe.
That's the big one. But I think it's more just Russell not knowing what to do. And it's just kind of, I think in Rogue it was actually quite a good conclusion, even if Ncuti didn't really save the day himself. It was more, I think that was more planned out. But Devil's Cord, it was just a bit, I don't know, like the Beatles come in and save the day with the power of music.
Well, it's like it should have felt like when the Doctor does all the notes, he gets all of them almost right and then gets one wrong. Like that's where it feels like the Doctor should get it right and save the day. So I don't know whether Russell's just trying to almost, kind of reverse things a little bit and be like, actually, the Doctor's great, but he doesn't always save the day. I don't know. But that just felt like a moment where, he really could have established himself and had that great sort of I am the Doctor moment. I feel like we've said that kind of in Dot and Bubble, that probably felt the closest to his sort of iconic Doctor moment. But, whereas we all remember the I am the Doctor speeches from, all the previous Doctors, really. I don't know. Would you say we've had quite that sort of defining saving the day moment from Ncuti yet?
Yeah, it's weird.
And it's not to criticise him, because I really like his Doctor. I'm just not sure whether it's the writing or what, but whether that just hasn't quite come yet.
Yeah, it's because when you look back at all the previous stories, like in the 11th Hour, you had Matt Smith's Doctor confronting the Atraxi on that roof, and
and 13 and Tim Shaw.
Yeah,
not a classic.
But still, it was at least it was a mode. And in Deep Breath, you had when he's confronting the half-faced droid at the end of that story, and I don't know if he's really had. I'm trying to think. Did he have that sort of moment in Church on Ruby Road or Space Babies? I don't think he did.
Well, he didn't really have a great villain to kind of have that moment against, I feel like, in either of those stories, because the goblins didn't say anything, and it was just a bogeyman that doesn't say anything either. So you kind of weren't able to have that kind of big moment, I feel like.
I'm hoping the 2-part finale then gives us that whenever he's confronting whoever it is, whether it's the trickster, Sutek, or whoever it is.
Omega, I don't know.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Omega would be great. I don't think it's Omega, but I hope they bring him back.
We will get into all the theories of that in a minute. But yes. Sorry, Charlie, go for it.
I was just thinking, guys, so what you were saying about Woman Who Fell to Earth, Deep Breath, 11th Hour, Christmas Invasion 2, the whole, sword fight, each of those Doctors has had a big moment in their very first episode where it's true. Like, they do one cool badass thing, save the day, and it's like, it's a big deal. They're the Doctor. 11th Hour especially is just so good with that. The whole scene with the faces, and then he goes through, and I watched a YouTube clip of that the other day, just because I didn't feel like watching the whole episode, but I just wanted to see it because it's so good. It's really good.
It's amazing.
But Ncuti hasn't really had that yet, and I feel like I don't know. I was comparing it to Rose as well, because in Rose, it's Rose that saves the day.
Yeah, it's true.
But then you get End of the World, and the Doctor. I mean, he doesn't do like one big epic dramatic thing, but he still figures it all out.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very much like a detective sort of episode, but the Doctor figures the whole thing out. He's the mastermind, and at the end, it just pays off. But Ncuti, he's not really done anything like that yet. And I think I'd like to see a sort of character development, and he comes more into his own in, Joy to the World and beyond. I mean, even the finale would be nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. Yeah, it's certainly something that I'm looking forward to seeing more of, because, as I say, I do really like his Doctor. I think I just want to see more of those kind of iconic, quotable moments that are almost like the more serious moments, because I feel like the Doctor and Ruby have a lot of fun, and there's a lot of jokes and humour and all that, and that's great, and it's great to have that in Doctor Who, but I sort of feel like I want those big, serious, dramatic moments where the Doctor, steps up and saves the day and all of that. I think that'd be really cool to see. So a couple of other things I just wanted to touch on about this episode is the kind of, I suppose, plot. I mean, it's definitely the secondary aspect of this story, but the plot of and the Childer themselves. Of course, Bill, the lead Childer, is played by Indira Varma, who we saw in Torchwood many, many years ago, so it was cool to see her back. But the Childer's plan is kind of to cosplay people because it's fun and kill them. I don't know. Is there any more depth to it than that, do you think, Bill?
No, I don't. I literally think they just... Yeah, I don't know. I think the writers may have had something against cosplayers. I don't know. I mean, it works. I mean, it's like, I think it's, as you say, it's not the primary focus of the episode. The primary focus is literally about the romance between the Doctor and Rogue. So that kind of pretty much works. So I think it's literally just a throwaway sort of like monster, just your bog standard Doctor Who alien, really, who, as Russell says, literally just continuing the tradition of using animals as like inspiration. So it's just talking birds that really want to cosplay as like Bridgerton characters because they've watched Bridgerton in outer space and stuff.
And they have to keep saying Bridgerton every 5 minutes in the episode.
I mean,
and I'm just, the second time I watched this, I literally said out loud, this episode in 10 years' time is going to be so dated. When Bridgerton is no longer a thing, it will, like, people will watch this for the first time in 10 years' time and just be like, what the heck are they talking about? What is this Bridgerton thing that we keep going on? Like, I don't know. I just felt like, yes, it makes it very relevant now, but also makes it very 2024. And in 10 years' time, it'll feel really, dated.
I would say, just like with Space Babies, where Doctor keeps saying Space Babies a lot, I feel like when they get with this one, just like that, take a shot every time someone says Bridgerton.
I'm pretty sure it's only Ruby. I think Ruby says it about 4 times, doesn't she? She's just like, oh, it's Bridgerton. Oh my gosh, Bridgerton. What? It's so Bridgerton. Why Bridgerton? It's like, okay, we get it. Calm down, guys. You only need to say it once, at most twice. Like, the whole vibe of it, doing the like pop songs in like classical music style, that's a very Bridgerton thing to do. All the drama between characters and stuff. Yes, it's very Bridgerton, but you should be able to see that without it being spelt out to you by naming the show time after time. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
I can't be the only one, by the way. Like, I don't know if I've missed a line. Can Childer time travel? Is that a thing they can do? Because they say TV signals, right, from Bridgerton, which is released in 2022, and somehow they're in 1813. Like, can the Childer time travel? This doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I saw an interesting theory, about the fact that Rogue's ship looks like a bird. So is Rogue's ship actually the Childer ship that he's stolen from them? and so they could actually time travel in that ship, but then he's stolen it from them. They've got trapped in this time period, and he's now having to hunt them down or something. I don't know. It's an idea, but I feel like they must have an ability to travel in time of some description, or because as you say, it's 1813. How are they getting Bridgerton from 2022, 2023 time? Like, what's going on there? So, it's definitely a story where that alien plot is not the most important thing, and then they just do this whole, we're going to have the series finale and it's a wedding, and it's like, what? Why are we doing this whole marriage thing? Genuinely, did I miss something? Was there a reason for this wedding happening apart from for the funsies?
No, can't see. To be honest, and I know this is going to be a very weird random thing, but with the children, and his thing, being an uncle to two nieces, right? And by the way, they both enjoyed this story, especially. Being an uncle to two nieces, you're bound to having to watch children's shows with them, right? And one of their favorite shows is Hey Dougie, and there's a character Rolly who every time a bird appears, he just goes bird and all that. And I'm not gonna lie, every time the children pop up, I just keep thinking,
excellent, yeah,
birds over, and I think, I don't know why the whole thing with the animals. I mean, first we had cats, then we had pigs, now we had birds. The makeup looks good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it does, to be fair, yeah.
And Indira Varma is really good, but I just, with the whole confusing plot with them and just the weird motivations, I just kind of struggle to take them a bit seriously. So
I think that's kind of the point. It's meant to be pretty humorous. And as we say, the romance storyline is really what this story is about. And it's more like, we're going to do a romance plot, but also this is Doctor Who, so we've got to have some aliens in it and stuff as well. So that's kind of just got to be there, even if when you pick it apart, it doesn't all really make a huge amount of sense, or just doesn't have very much detail.
And I think that when you pick apart their plot, it just really doesn't really hang together, and it presents more questions than answers. And the fact that every time they appear, I just keep thinking of Rolly from Hey Dougie shouting birds. I just it is, I suppose, but it was something when I noticed it. But and speaking of presenting more questions than answers, what was the deal with the Shalka Doctor? Why did he?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was bizarre, wasn't it? I must confess, I didn't really fully take it in at the time. It was pretty hard to tell some of those faces. They were really oddly like cut up as well. Like Jodie's face looked so like morphed and weird and very odd. But Russell's just decided, oh, why didn't I just chuck Richard E. Grant in there for the lols? Like, is okay. A question to the floor: is the Shalka Doctor canon? Yes or no?
It must be now. It must be included amongst all the other Doctors, including the War Doctor, the Fugitive Doctor. He's got to be canon now. So that means,
was he canon before this episode in your head?
I don't think it was canon.
Exactly.
They made it canon now.
I like to think, since we didn't see the War Doctor actually regenerate into 9, he bi-generated into Shalka and 9. Sorted.
You should sell that one to Russell. He'll love it. But reply to his Instagram with that. He'll be like, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking when I wrote it. That was my plan. That's why I put it in there.
I mean, I think Russell just thought, you know what? The real 9th Doctor doesn't like me, so I'm going to make my own.
Yeah, I mean, he really doesn't. He really doesn't sack Russell T Davies and all that before he'll come back. So maybe they've got more optimism of getting the fake 9th Doctor back than getting the real 9th Doctor back. So that's why they're trying to, butter up Richard E. Grant. He's already done The Great Intelligence. So now we can do a storyline about how the Doctor looks the same as that guy from that episode 10 years ago with The Great Intelligence in. That sounds like a great plot to me for a season 3 episode, maybe. I don't know. It was very bizarre. And I mean, but for a normal fan, wouldn't even notice it. So does it really matter? Probably not. But I guess we can now all pick up our Scream of the Shalka DVDs that we haven't watched for 10 years because why would you watch Scream of the Shalka? And now we have a reason to watch it because it's canon within the show somewhere.
It's been a long while since I've watched it. It's been over a decade since I watched that story.
Yeah.
I remember it being fine. It was okay, but maybe I need to give it a rewatch.
I mean, I think now we need to do a Scream of the Shalka special on the podcast. Like, we need to do an episode purely devoted to Scream of the Shalka because we've basically got a new Doctor. Like, you know, one that we didn't realise was, like, legit before. So there you go, guys. Later in the year, listen out because we will do a full in-depth review of Scream of the Shalka, of the special features, that whole DVD release from, like, 2013 or something. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait for it. So we should probably move on. Well, actually, no. Before we talk about the finale, let's give our scores for them. Ryan, I think, did you say 8 out of 10 for this story?
Yeah, it's an 8 out of 10. If I was to rank the stories, it would be 73 Yards at the top, then Boom, Dot and Bubble, Devil's Cord, Rogue, Church on Ruby Road, Space Babies.
Okay.
I think that's
excellent. Very good. Bill, where would you sit it out of 10?
I mean, to be honest, as much as like we've kind of slated it a bit in this, I think that, you know, it's actually quite good because it's kind of what we were saying last week about how it's more traditional Doctor Who episodes. And I think that helps a lot to just kind of, it's just a nice breath of fresh air after so much experimental stuff going on early in the season. So, and I just loved I liked the whole romance subplot and everything as well. So I'll give it like an 8 or 9 out of 10 because at least from like in terms of enjoyment anyway, even if it's not a perfect episode, it's still it's like one I could easily like imagine rewatching, and you know, like you kind of stick it on in the background and you know, you don't think too much about it, but you're still kind of enjoying it. So it's like that for me.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I think it's a very easy rewatchable episode, as you say. And there's, as much as we've criticised it a bit, it's still just a fun, easy episode of Doctor Who, and something to sort of, look back on more easily. So, Charlie, what's your rating out of 10 for it?
Solid 8. I feel like 9 is a bit generous for it, even though it's so rewatchable. Like you were saying, that like it's just, I watched it a second time, and usually when I watch a Doctor Who episode for a second time, I look at it critically. I didn't really do that much. It's just a fun episode. It's a good time. It's a romp. You know, that's it. I can't really fault it too much, and you know the chemistry is great. So solid 8. I'd say my ranking's quite similar to yours, Ryan, but you just swap a couple. Boom, 73 Yards, Dot and Bubble, Rogue, Space Babies, Church on Ruby Road, Devil's Cord. I'd say.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Oh, I think I'd go 7.5 because I'm going to be lazy like that. I think it's better than Space Babies this season, and it's on a par with Devil's Cord, but I put it behind the other 3. I think sit it somewhere around there. Well, of course, I feel like the biggest talking point almost off the back of this story, apart from Richard E. Grant, was the Next Time trailer and what's going to happen in The Legend of Ruby Sunday. So, of course, we've got another 15 minutes. Let's have a little chat about what's coming up over the next 2 weeks. We saw the really, really short 20-second Next Time trailer that gave very little away apart from we're really going heavy on Susan Twist. Like, that is the key thing behind this finale is Susan Twist, what's she doing here? Why does she keep turning up? We obviously saw her as a portrait in this story, though I did find it quite odd that they actually put her in the cast list when she was literally a portrait on the wall. That just felt like a bit unnecessary, but there we go. They did do that. And we obviously saw various shots of Unit, and we saw a very, very brief freeze frame of a sort of mysterious alien-like creature version of Susan Twist, I think, along with a sort of then glitched creepy person as well. So Charlie, where are you sitting at the moment on this finale? Where is it? Where do you think it's going? Do we have any more clues? Do you have any more feelings?
Susan Twist is definitely someone. That's okay. That's what I'm going to go with. Like,
definitely someone. She's Susan Trier
in the episode, and I feel like it's kind of weird, right? There was that longer trailer, and we get a shot of the hooded figure from Church of Ruby Road. Yes. That sort of seems like an afterthought. I'm not even sure if we find out who that is in this finale, to be honest. I think that might be a sort of Joy to the World season 2 sort of plot line, maybe. Okay. I feel like it's very much Susan Twist, unless that is Susan Twist. I don't think it is. but
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think it is, but I feel like it's got to
Yeah.
tie in somehow. I feel like it's too much of a plot point for them to kind of just
Yeah.
drop it until the next season.
Yeah, it's weird because it just feels like two sort of massive things. Like, you've got Susan Twist, and there's the hooded figure. How do they relate? Like, I think Susan Twist is definitely someone's like herald, or like someone, it's someone big, because not only is we have that screenshot of like S Triad technology. It's not Susan Triad, it's S Triad.
And what's S Triad an anagram for?
Sid Rats. It's a War Games. No, I saw that the other day, so I thought War Games reference. No, but yeah, that's got to mean something. Also, Susan Triad technology, Susan Tech, Sutech. Like, that can't be that's got to be intentional. I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's got to be Sutech, and that weird alien figure had pyramids.
Exactly, the pyramids. That was for me the clincher of like, I'm feeling that's the way it's heading. But then also, as you say, S Triad, TARDIS. We know the memory TARDIS is involved in this. So how is like mysterious TARDIS things involved in Susan Triad? Like, is she the TARDIS? Like, I don't know. It's all so weird.
Yeah, there's like two massive things, but they're completely different.
Yeah.
I was reading the Radio Times interview with Russell, and he said that 99% of all the plot lines will get resolved in this two-part finale, but only one will be sort of left open, and it's going to be a pretty big one thing that's going to be left open. That's pretty big that it will carry over into the next season in a big way.
Mrs.
Flood, surely it's but then she's sitting with Cherry in the episode in that image, haven't we? We've seen her sitting on the bed, so she's clearly involved in this story. Are we suddenly going to actually, sort that out in this story as well? I don't know.
And he's also mentioned like stories to kind of perhaps rewatch in preparation.
Yep.
And he's listed Spearhead from Space, Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways, Good Man Goes to War, Bells of St. John, and The Church on Ruby Road. And he said he deliberately left out two stories because he said if he mentioned what those two are, it'll give away a lot of it. So
is it Pyramids of Mars?
Who knows?
Pyramids of Mars and what, though?
Well, it's the truth. Is there any monster that's been in Doctor Who twice? And so there's two episodes that we could be referencing. Omega.
Oh.
The Three Doctors and Arc of Infinity. There you go. It's Omega confirmed.
Or it could just be two completely separate things. Like,
well, yeah.
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe it's like a Time Lord, so it's Hellbent or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an odd selection of stories that he's given us. Like Spear from Space, it's not Autons. Like, I don't know, regeneration trauma, or
maybe it's something
unit,
that
or
later, like maybe it's like a Benson cameo or something. Like, it might not be that deep. It could just be like Bessie or something.
Yeah.
I think he said that there's going to be something in this that's tied into the Third Doctor's era. There's something in this sort of connected to Three's era, and I wonder if it's something in Spearhead from Space, just one little thing that we missed, or that, or
the Doctor's shoes.
Oh, there's an old. No, those were his old shoes. They just happened to be there all along. If it's the Three Doctors, what if it's because the Time Lords gave him a new dematerialization circuit?
True.
The old must be floating around somewhere in unit. So maybe...
yeah, and it's used to make the memory TARDIS somehow. Because that's one of the things I find most confusing about this finale is we know for a fact that the Doctor and Mel and probably Ruby are going to end up inside the memory TARDIS. And the memory TARDIS doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in the main narrative of the show. It's a cool way to get old companions and Doctors back, but actually as part of an ongoing story for the current Doctor, how do you incorporate that? And then also have an hour and 15-minute program in between the two episodes with supposedly the Doctor and Ruby sitting in that memory TARDIS chatting. I'm really hoping that that's just a cover for it actually being Pyramids of Mars or something like that. But I don't know, Bill, what's going on? What's going on?
Yeah, that synopsis, I don't believe that for a second, because that would just be it'd be literally, like everyone said, it'd just be a clip show, and
waste of time.
It's just like the past seven episodes by then just getting recapped. I mean, someone could just do that on YouTube and upload it. It's not really like. I don't think it's going to be that at all. I think it is hiding something pretty big, possibly Sutek returning, and it's a cut down omnibus version of Pyramids of Mars or something like that. Because that would make far more sense than just like 15 and Ruby going like, oh yes, do you remember when we met Space Babies and Maestro and went to Villengard and like, well, that's great.
And then, that story I don't remember. What happened there?
I mean, what I thought was interesting today, I think it might have been from that Radio Times interview, it might have been somewhere else, but Russell was saying that they had code names for the villains in the finale when they were on set and stuff, so that it wasn't accidentally leaked what they were. So that, for me, takes out the possibility that it's a brand new monster, because if it's a brand new monster, you don't need to code name the name of that monster. So it's clearly something returning that we as fans would know. Whether that is Sutek Omega, Susan Foreman, I don't know what else, like New Time Lords, whatever, like the Rani. Could be any of these, but it's going to be a returning something.
Yeah, and I think Russ also mentioned that the whole triad technologies was an idea that dates back to the Giggle, because Donna asked Mel in that story what sort of technology system they were using, and Mel replied it was Triad that they were using. Triad technology was what Unit was using, and Russell said that's going to have massive consequences for everyone in that finale. So it seems like whatever it is, and I'm curious to know how all this is going to tie in. If Sutek is indeed coming back, which it's a possibility, or who knows, it could be the gods of Ragnarok for all we know.
It was referenced in the Giggle, you never know.
Yeah, and if it's either one of them, it's wondering how the whole triad technology would tie into them in some ways. How would it tie? And also, is Sutek's connection to the Pantheon of Discord / Gods of Chaos? Because is Sutek the one who waits? Is he the oldest one, the boss, as the me preference? Is he all those things? Is it Sutek, or is it a completely different one? But then again, Russell did say that 99% of this plotlines will be resolved. So,
which also slightly concerns me, because I'm like, that sounds like a whole lot of stuff to wrap up in a 45-minute episode plus maybe at best a 60-minute finale, if not just another 45-minute episode. Like, do we have faith? I mean, I know one of the biggest problems, let's go back 3 years and talk about Doctor Who Flux, and we got to the Vanquishers and we were like, oh my gosh, how is Chris Chibnall going to wrap this up? And the answer was he didn't. He failed it. So, Charlie, do you think that Russell has got it in him to actually pull off a whole fresh story, but also wrap up everything else we've had in the series in 2 episodes?
I'm going to go into it with an open mind. I'm not going to be like, Power of the Doctor. I really love Power of the Doctor. I wasn't very open-minded. I went into it thinking this is going to be bad. And it wasn't. I actually really enjoyed it. But I think Russell T. Davies is in Chris Chibnall, and this is not going to be the Vanquishers. It's not.
Yes.
I think Last of the Time Lords wasn't the best. Thing is, most of the episode is fine. It's the last 10 minutes that's really bad. And Utopia, Sound of Drums, they're the first 2 parts. They're really good. Russell, he's not that bad at finales. Army of Ghost Doomsday, I have my issues with it, but it's all right, really. And the series 1 and 4 finales are excellent. So,
yes,
I have hope. I think it'll be quite good. If it is bad, I'm going to be kind of annoyed, and it'll leave a bad taste in my mouth for the whole season. But because it kind of didn't start amazingly, and if it doesn't end amazingly, it's just kind of it kind of makes me forget about the good stuff in the middle. But I don't know. I'm going to go into it with an open mind. I'm going to be quite optimistic, and I'm seeing it in cinema, so it better be good.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. I mean, it's going to that's going to be a pretty cool experience. I'm sure you'll have a great time with that.
It'll be great, because I was a bit too. I didn't really know what Doctor Who was when Day of the Doctor released. So it's your first chance to go then, pretty much. And do we think they're going to do this for every finale? Like,
I hope so, because I can't go to this one. I'm hoping I can
Yeah.
go to the next one. So I would
Yeah.
really like if they do.
Yeah.
But it probably depends. It's probably the classic: how successful is this one? To how many tickets do they sell? All that kind of thing. And if they sell enough, they'll do it again. If they don't, they won't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's probably a commercial decision.
yeah. I mean, I think it'll be quite good. But another thing I was just thinking about with, like, Susan Triad and everything, we don't actually know if she's like a villain or a victim to another villain. We actually have no idea.
I'm
Like-
leaning towards her being a victim, or because I really genuinely think she doesn't know the Doctor. She isn't pretending in every single appearance to be
Yeah.
someone else and actually know the Doctor and everything. I think those are legit like splinters, like Clara or something of that ilk. They mention about being seen in dreams, I think, in the Next Time trailer and all of this. So I think some being is kind of using her to spread her across the Doctor and Ruby's timeline for a purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, I've also just remembered, there's that whole business with the TARDIS making this very weird noise. It happened in Wild Blue Yonder. It happened
Yes, true.
happened in Rogue.
Yeah.
Again, so that
And we know there's TARDIS shenanigans coming.
yeah, so there's that going on. I would have liked to have done the cinema experience with this two Batman, because I did it with Day of the Doctor, I did it with Deep Breath.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that it's showing very late at night, and if I did attend, I would just be tired all the way through, and just
That's the problem, yeah.
And not being at my full potential, that my 100% concentrated. If I'm going to watch it, I want to not be tired, be completely wide awake and 100% ready, because this is definitely not going to be a story that I want to be tired all the way through with.
Definitely, yeah. I think I probably won't stay up till midnight, but when I wake up on Saturday morning, first thing I'm going to do is watch Doctor Who, and it's going to be a great time, I'm sure. And one thing that I've been thinking, which I think is really cool about this finale, and I'm not sure when the last time it happened, is that we genuinely don't know what the villain of the finale is going to be. Like, I can't remember a preview. Like, we've always known when it's going to be the Cybermen or the Master or whatever. Like, we actually don't, we can guess, of course we can guess, and we can say, oh, maybe it's Sutek or whatever, but really we don't have a clue, and it's going to be a complete shock whatever it is on the day. And I think that's really exciting, that's really cool, and feels like a real change from previous finales where, I mean, Blooming Timeless Children, we all knew the plot before it even aired, series 10, series 8, we knew the Cybermen were coming back and all this kind of thing. So I think that's just something really exciting to look forward to. So I'm going to come to you all one more time. Give me your bold prediction for something that's going to happen in The Legend of Ruby Sunday. It could be a returning monster. It could be what the cliffhanger is going to be. It could be who Susan Triad is, who Susan Twist is. It could be something completely random. So I'm going to come first to Bill. Give me your bold prediction for this episode.
So I have heard somewhere someone mentions the idea of Susan Twist being a sort of harbinger type of character for Sutek, like a kind of premonition of Sutek's return. So I'll say that because I think that would be really intriguing. I've got no idea how that would work, how she would tie into Sutek or anything like that. But yeah, I think if something like that would happen, I think that would be really great. And yeah, I just really hope it's Sutek or someone of that caliber as well, because it'd just be so great to have him back.
Yeah, I think it'd be so cool. Right, Ryan, I'll come to you next.
I think Susan Triad will be, if she's connected to Sutek, it will be like a harbinger sort of character. And in terms of cliffhangers, I think it will sort of end with a sort of seemingly decimation of the universe while the Doctor, Ruby, and Mel are stuck inside the memory TARDIS. And I'm a bit of a wild guess, and I could be completely wrong on this. It's more likely I'd be completely wrong on this. If Ruby isn't in the Christmas special, I think something's going to happen in part 2. She's going to do something, or something happens that causes a divide between her and the Doctor, and they separate.
Ooh, interesting. I like that. That would be a cool idea. That would be really interesting. Okay, I like that prediction. Charlie, what's your thoughts going to the last 2 episodes?
Ooh, I'm gonna throw a bit of a different prediction out there.
Yeah.
Rose Noble is in this episode.
True, we haven't talked about that yet.
She's gonna have a bigger role in this than most people think. I think this is an insane prediction. I think she might die in this episode. I could be completely wrong.
Okay.
I could be way
Okay.
off. But
Okay.
Rose Noble, she's 16 years old. She was in the Star Beast, and for some reason she's here. Like, I just don't get it. Why is she working for UNIT? Like,
Yeah.
I know she's like work experience or something, but like, it just seems so ridiculously random.
Yes.
And she's obviously someone very close to the Doctor's heart. Like, I feel like she's got to be there for a reason. Even if she doesn't die, I feel like something's going to happen with her, you know?
Interesting. Okay.
I feel like it's not just going to be a cameo and an excuse to reference David Tennant again. It's
Yeah.
I feel it's going to be.
How's my previous Doc doing? How's he getting on? Yeah. Okay.
You've got to have the David Tennant reference, but I feel like she'll be a big deal because.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good prediction, and I feel like I've got to go bold. So let's say that at some point in these 2 episodes, Carol Ann Ford appears as Susan. Because I feel like we kind of, earlier in the series, everybody was talking about how Susan's going to come back when we had lots of references to the Doctor's family and all this. And I feel like it's kind of all gone a little bit quiet because we're all focusing on it being Sutek and what Susan Twist is and whatever. But I feel like, actually, no, there's such an exploration of family here that, you know, the original Susan is going to turn up again. And the Doctor's granddaughter will be in one of these 2 episodes. So that's my bold prediction. But I think really we're all just very excited for it. And having spent an hour talking about this, I just really wish it was Saturday now, to be honest, so that I can watch it because I really need to see this episode. So, well, we will be back next week, of course, to break down the first part of the finale, to get in depth on everything that goes on this week in this week's episode and our final predictions for the finale. So there's going to be lots to look forward to there. I am aware, of course, often in this podcast we talk about Doctor Who DVDs and Blu-rays. I'm very aware that The Celestial Toymaker came out this week, and it is something we're going to be talking about as well as season 15 in the weeks after season 1 has ended. But of course, I feel like everybody's focus really is on this season, and I'm kind of finding it a bit odd they actually released The Celestial Toymaker this week because, you know, why don't you wait till the series is done? But that's what they decided to do. So we will cover that in depth on the podcast in a few weeks' time. But for now, let's get hyped for the finale because I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And so before I go, I must do the housekeeping. Remember, check us out on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, my channel, EMS Productions. Check us out on Twitter /X. At KerVAM Pod. But from me, from Ryan, from Charlie, from Bill, enjoy the first part of the finale, and we will see you next week.